Have you ever wanted something so deeply that you built your whole future around it? How many of you have prayed for that kind of love? Steady, safe, and real love. I'm Michelle Hoffman, and all I ever wanted was to be in a really healthy, loving partnership. It took me longer than I thought it should. I didn't realize I was developing a process in the meantime to actually find and attract and enjoy the right love in your life. But when I did find my person, it was perfect. We built a home, a life, and a family together. When love is healthy, it doesn't shrink your life. It becomes the foundation you build on. But life has a way of reminding us that even the best laid plans can be ambushed. Have you ever had the ground under you disappear and suddenly you're the one that everyone depends on? Life was perfect until my husband died. That left me head of household, sole parent, and single. I wondered, what am I supposed to do? Grief doesn't just break your heart. It can hand you responsibilities that you were never prepared for and you were never trained for. And in that moment, grief tries to convince you you're alone, unqualified, and out of time. How many of you have stared at your life and thought, I don't know what the next step is, let alone the next year? There was no guide for this. Day to day, I needed to rebuild my life after loss, and I really couldn't see my future. It felt like the landscape of my life that I had planned was scorched. When you can't see far ahead, your job is not to map out your whole future. Your job is to find the next right step. Uncertainty loves to whisper, don't move until you feel ready. Have you ever realized you can't stay where you are, but you also don't know how to get where you're going? I knew lying fetal position and soaking my pillow with tears was no way for me to live my one precious life, and it would not be honoring my late husband. You can grieve deeply and still choose to live bravely. But despair wants to become your identity instead of a season. How many of you know what it's like to find comfort in community and still wish you never needed it? There's a huge widow community, and it's a place where we can support one another. But it's a club we never want anyone to have to join because it is so painful. Support helps you survive, but structure helps you rebuild. Because pain without a path keeps you stuck. What if grief isn't something you only fight? What if something you listen to? What if it's something that you can hear and respond to so it can release you? I've now witnessed the developmental stages of widowhood, and I help people move through grief by inviting grief in to have a cup of tea at the table and identifying what grief holds that you value so that you can treasure and honor that so that grief helps move you forward instead of having a hold on you. When you can name what grief is protecting, you can keep the value without staying in the pain. Grief will take the driver's seat if you never invite it in to speak and have a conversation and understand what it holds so that you can honor it and then invite grief to move on. Have you ever had someone nudge you toward an opportunity you wouldn't have chosen on your own? Beth Kawasaki was leading a group called Reboot XL to help onboard women back into the workplace after a gap in employment. A girlfriend encouraged me to participate. Sometimes the next door opens because someone else sees you clearly, even before you do. But pride and overwhelm can make us say, I'm fine, I'll figure it out alone. How many of you have had people tell you, you should do this? And inside you're thinking, yeah, okay, but how? Beth and I became friends, and one day she asked me, what do you think you should do? I did not know. Meanwhile, there were many people at Stanford University, professors and PhDs, saying that I should write a book about the journey I had gone through. But how was I supposed to know how to write a book? Calling is one thing, clarity is another. Mentorship turns the fog into a plan, and self doubt loves to hide behind a sentence that sounds responsible. Oh, I'm just not ready yet. What would you do if you had one conversation that could change the trajectory of your life? Beth Kawasaki said, "You should talk to my husband. He's written many books." That's how I found myself at the breakfast table across from Guy Kawasaki with my friend Beth, his wife, who's equally talented. Proximity to the right people can compress years of trial and error into one clear decision. But we often talk ourselves out of life-changing rooms because we assume we don't belong there. Have you ever needed someone to look you in the eye and say, "This is it. This is your next step. Take it"? Guy Kawasaki listened to my story. He pointed his finger at me and he said, "That's your book. Write the book." It was a very clear message. It was my call to adventure. Clarity is a gift, and once you receive it, your job is action. Because fear will always offer you 1,000 reasons to wait. How many of you are tired of advice that sounds inspiring but doesn't translate into something actionable? I also learned and watched Beth and Guy model how to make complex things simple. Make it easy for people to digest and understand and implement. Beth and Guy can make complex things approachable. And that shaped how I write, how I speak, how I teach, how I coach. If it can't be understood, it can't be implemented. Simplicity serves people. Complexity can look smart, but it often keeps people stuck. What's the guide you wish you extended in the hardest season? I wrote The Life Worth Living, a practical and compassionate guide to navigating widowhood and soul parenting. This is the guide I did not have. Beth and Guy wrote the foreword for it and put a testimonial in it. Your mess can become the message that serves someone else through years of pain, compressing it so that they can live their life worth living. But perfectionism will try to convince you that your story has to be flawless before it can be helpful. Have you ever been surprised by how many people are quietly walking through what you've walked through? Then my first book became an international bestseller, and people started to reach out to me from all over the world asking, "Can you help me through this?" When you share your truth with structure, it finds the people who need it. Silence and shame keep people isolated, especially in grief. How many of you are one decision away from turning survival into purpose and income? I thought I needed to get 2 jobs, and people all over the world said, "No, this is your job. You're now a life coach." So I became a life coach. Value creates value. When you truly help people, provision can follow. But scarcity will keep you hustling for scraps instead of building something real. How many of you have had your life or business pivot, whether you wanted it to or not? Originally, I was specifically the widow guide, walking people through the life worth living process. Then COVID, things pivoted again. A pivot isn't a detour. It can be a delivery system for your next level of impact. But disruption tries to label itself as defeat. Have you ever had someone ask you a question and suddenly you realize, wait, I actually know something here? I was on a Zoom call. I was dating by then, and someone asked, "How are you dating so well when we can't even meet these people?" Your results are evidence, and evidence becomes a framework. But we dismiss our own growth because it feels normal to us. What if the door to your next season opens with a simple sentence? And I realized I have a process for this. It's part of what I coach people on. The words that came out of my mouth next changed my life again. What does your profile say? Would you like me to help you with that? Offer help with clarity, and the right people will raise their hands. It can help to move quickly because hesitation loves to pretend it's humility. Have you ever seen demand show up so clearly that you couldn't unsee it? Every single rectangle on that Zoom call said yes. And by the next morning, I had an entire coaching arc done because I had learned how to do coaching from being the widow guide. When you've done the inner work, you can build the outer work very quickly. But imposter syndrome will still try to tell you you're not ready yet. How many of you want love, but you also want clarity, not confusion, not chaos, clarity? I built an 8-week program that hits the most important highlights: how to attract the right love in your life, how to know who it is, how to know where to find them, how to lay the foundation of a relationship, and how to engage so you not only know they're the right one for you, you can explain that you're the right one for them. Healthy love isn't luck, it's skill plus standards plus alignment. And society loves chemistry, but rarely teaches how to go from chemistry to casual to a real, meaningful commitment. What if your relationships are the greatest legacy you leave in life? Now I'm a relationship coach. People come to me to attract the right love in their lives. They stay with me because they're also learning how to elevate all the relationships in their lives. So on the day you die, you will know you truly lived and loved. Success without love is a loud kind of loneliness, but busyness can quietly bankrupt intimacy. How many of you are done with inspiration that evaporates too soon? And it's not vague, fluffy advice that I give. I put the time and energy into building a replicatable system that works for everyone when they put the effort into it. Systems create stability, and stability creates results you can trust because emotions alone can't hold a relationship together when life gets heavy. Can you imagine what happens when two people build trust on purpose, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade? All relationships follow the same cycle from chemistry to casual to commitment. And we up-level relationships through repeated communication, shared experiences, and adventures. And over time, that builds respect and ultimately develops trust. Trust is built on consistent action, not only declarations. But avoidance, assumptions, and unspoken expectations are silent relationship killers. What would you change if you stopped keeping your best wisdom trapped inside you? When I realized I was saying the same thing over and over again, I created recordings and built my online courses. When you turn what works into a repeatable resource, you multiply impact. But we often wait until we feel official before we can build something scalable. How many of you would love to see real results? Not someday, but within a few weeks. By week 4, for example, every single person who has trusted me has made significant movement toward their relationship dream come true. And I know it works. I even tell them on week 4, there's going to be something that happens that moves from relationship challenge to relationship dream come true. And I'm going to send you a little reminder so that you believe me because it happens every single time. Progress is predictable when the process is proven. But hopelessness tries to convince you that your patterns can't change. What if love felt like home, not like anxiety? What if commitment felt like safety, not like pressure? Now, every week, people send me love notes and pictures. They're experiencing love like they've never felt before. Walking on air, the cotton candy kind of love. They feel like they're at home in a healthy partnership where they can maintain their identity and individuality and together create the universe of an extraordinary relationship that is unique to this partnership where they can share life's celebrations and challenges and know that they can rely and support on one another. The goal isn't to lose yourself in love. The goal is to become more yourself together. But fear of getting hurt again will keep you auditioning people instead of building with the right one. Who would love more celebration in your story, more joy that actually lasts? I get to go to a lot of weddings now. When you heal and build wisely, joy becomes normal again. Cynicism tries to look mature when it's really just unprocessed pain. How many of you have a message in you that's bigger than one chapter of your life? Beth and Guy Kawasaki also helped me become an author and with a growing library. Beyond Life Worth Living, I've written The New Management Blueprint, Spark Talent to Ignite Winning Teams, Creating Valuable Results, born from corporate consulting and professional relationshiping. Your experience is not random. It can become an asset when you structure it. I was also nominated as a Titan as one of 139 authors to contribute to Ensemble from solo to symphony, where proceeds help children get off the streets. So now my work will serve the life and serve others in the world. The inner critic may argue that your voice doesn't matter, but it does. Impact expands when you collaborate and contribute. Isolation shrinks both influence and imagination. Have you ever been in a season where the next level is real, but it's not fully built yet? My fourth book that's upcoming, Find Love Now, has already been picked up by a publisher. Momentum doesn't require perfection. It requires consistent, continued commitment. But fear says, don't take action till you can guarantee the outcome. If I can figure it out, what are you capable of figuring out with the right mentors around you? From not knowing how to write a book to having a library. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Guy. I figured it out in a great part thanks to Beth and Guy Kawasaki. The right guidance doesn't just save time, it changes identity. Doing something alone is the slowest path and often the most painful. When Beth Kawasaki and Guy Kawasaki suggest you do something, it's a call to adventure. If they're being very specific and giving you a clear next step, take it seriously because that clarity can change the trajectory of your life. I don't know about you, but I have had enough pain. Clarity plus action is a life changer. Fear will always try to negotiate your destiny. What might be on the other side of one conversation, one program, one yes? Beth Kawasaki and Guy Kawasaki helped me do this, not only for myself, but for others, and maybe you. They're very good at making complex things simple, and they are a beautiful couple. Definitely a role model couple. Their impact is extending well beyond my reach because their nudge helped turn my loss into a message that's now helping people all over the world find love and build stable, healthy, intimate relationships they can rely on and professional relationships that will propel them forward in their professional lives. The right support can turn a breakdown into a blueprint. The real enemy isn't that you don't have potential. It's that pain and fear try to keep you from activating it. Viktor Frankl said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Amelia Earhart said, the most difficult thing is the decision to act. Huh, the rest is merely tenacity. And I say, I couldn't change what happened, but I could choose the next right step. If you're in a season where you know you need clarity about your work and your life and your next chapter, your voice, your confidence, you could go seek assistance from Beth and Guy Kawasaki. Join Reboot XL. Get in the rooms where complex things become simple, where the next step gets named, and where you stop carrying the whole future by yourself. Say yes to the nudge. Take the step. Write the book, whatever your book and your story and your next chapter is. Mine is The Art of Relationshiping, and you're welcome to learn more about me at theartofrelationshipping.com. When in reality, I'm here to thank Beth and Guy Kawasaki for helping for me to say yes and nudge my life forward in this positive pivot where I get to help people like you. Thanks.